Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am he. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, welcoming you to this podcast here, where we talk about professional wrestling for some time here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or on your favorite podcast application, wherever it is you decide to consume me. That sounds weird. I am there, and thank you for doing it. And look, I would greatly appreciate a like on this video. That would be terrific. Also a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. That would all be tremendous. Anything you can show. You can hype now things on YouTube. I don't know if you've heard this. If you use your mobile app, iOS, Android, you get an option. You can hype once per week, right? One video from a small creator. It creates a leaderboard of small creators, from what I'm told, and it's giving everyone like an opportunity to get the old push, get the old pushy push there in the algorithm or whatever. I don't know. Like, YouTube's not very clear on how it works. I'm not quite sure how to consult the leaderboard, but I mean, let's hype it anyway, right? Let's get me on the leaderboard. I don't know if I'll ever make it. But it'll be exciting nonetheless if you go ahead and use it. But you can only do it on your mobile device and not on your PC or laptop or Mac or Linux desktop device or laptop, whatever. Listen, I'm very glad you're here. I'm glad that you're considering joining the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, which is a great place to come talk about pro wrestling. The link is in the description. We would love to have you. I'm also fortunate that you come and chat with me on Blue Sky over at MrWarrenHayes.show, which is also very fantastic. But as for right now, we've got ourselves a show to talk about. We've got ourselves not just to talk about, but to get through, right? We're going to talk about WWE going to Saudi Arabia. We're going to talk about the alleged Paramount deal where they're thinking about purchasing Warner Bros. Discovery. We're going to talk about Andrade and Chris Jericho. Look, we've got ourselves a hefty show on our hands. Might as well just go ahead and do it. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's do it. Let's go. All right. Well, I was asked, what are my thoughts on the Andrade situation with WWE, I should say. And well, glad you asked, because I had it ready on the old doc tonight. This is the article that we're going to read from our boy Josh Nason over there at the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Andrade released by WWE. In a surprise move Saturday, which was Saturday, September 13, Andrade was released by WWE, first reported by Fightful and later confirmed by our David Meltzer. The outlet also noted that it was not part of a mass group of cuts. John Alba later reported that he was released from the company and it was not a mutual decision. He has already been moved to their alumni section on WWE.com. The 35-year-old last wrestled alongside Rey Fenix at August's SummerSlam in the 6-way TLC match for the tag titles. This was his second run in WWE after nearly 3 years in AEW. He returned at the January 2024 Royal Rumble and eventually won the Speed title, oh boy, holding it for more than 160 days. His initial WWE run lasted from 2016 to 2020 and included an NXT title run and a WWE United States title run. He wrestled 62 times in his second go around, and was teaming with Rey Fenix in recent months. He thanked AEW head Tony Khan after his AEW run ended, as their split didn't appear to be acrimonious. It was reported AEW wanted to re-sign him, but he declined. Instead, chose to sign with WWE instead. All right. Got another little bit of an article here, a little follow-up, where Andrade posted his first message here since his WWE release. Posted that today, if I'm not mistaken, on September 15. Andrade has not addressed the circumstances of his exit at this point, but he sent out a brief social media post Monday thanking WWE, as well as on an Instagram, where he said, "Thank you, WWE." He tweeted, "Thank you, WWE," and wrote this lovely message here where he's just chilling, smoking a cigar and having a whiskey, or it kind of, is that a whiskey or like just a shot of espresso? Hard to say. He's unbothered by all of this. He's unbothered. Well, isn't that interesting? But the one point we haven't brought up yet, the one thing we just haven't brought up yet is are the reasons that he left. If it wasn't mutual, then what the hell went on? Well, Dave Meltzer, chimed in to begin with. I believe he started first, like he often does. And he said on the September 14 edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, he addressed what led to the 35-year-old second stint with WWE coming to an end less than 2 years after he returned. So this is what he said here, our boy Dave. Quote, "I've seen all the speculation everywhere, and I don't know the whole story, but I do know it was a discipline thing. It was not his doing at all." Well, I mean, a discipline thing is his doing, but he continued. "A couple of weeks ago, there was a disciplinary thing, and all I know, it was at a TV shoot, and he was told to go home. And he's not been used since. I was told it was not drug related. It was not alcohol related. It was not marriage related. Nobody would tell me what it was, but it was enough to be sent home." Dave adds, "I know that they wanted him in the AAA project. He didn't do it, so there's that. But I don't know that there's anything to do with if that has anything to do with it or not." Okay? Are we following this so far? So Dave basically saying, not drugs, not alcohol, not related to that, but it's a disciplinary thing. Okay, cool. John Alba over on The Takedown on SI had a little extra information here. Sources indicate to The Takedown on SI that Andrade was effectively released by the company and that the departure was not a mutual decision. He had not been backstage at TV tapings for nearly a month, and multiple talent were being told Saturday afternoon that the 35-year-old had been let go. It is unknown if Andrade also requested his release, but he did back in 2021. Was also noted that the release was not related to budget cuts, as has been the case for multiple WWE departures over the past couple of years. The exact nature of the release, however, is not entirely clear at this time, and was emphasized that WWE doesn't typically offer contracts that are a year and a half long. So we're hammering home the idea that something did happen to end his contract early. And since then, John Alba has come forward with more information saying, yeah, he might have one or more wellness policy violations. This is what John Alba added in a later article on the 14th. The Takedown on SI would soon learn that Andrade's departure was not mutual and that the company released him from his contract. It is not clear as to whether or not he ever requested his release, but the decision to cut him was on the company's volition and not related to budget moves. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer would reveal on Saturday night that the release was disciplinary, which the Takedown on SI can confirm. We can also add more context as to what sort of discipline Andrade was facing. Multiple sources indicate to the Takedown on SI that Andrade had at least one wellness policy violation during his most recent WWE run. It is not known how exactly he was in violation of the policy, or whether or not he is in fact tested for a banned substance. WWE can suspend talent for failing to produce a test as well. It is also not clear if it directly led to his release, but it was noted that he was suspended without pay as a result of it. Initial reports noted that he had not been backstage at SmackDown as of late and was not listed on internal rosters. The takedown on SI can add that he was told to leave a taping last month and was escorted out of the building. A high-level source asserted this dismissal from the building was in relation to his most recent suspension and that it affected major creative plans for his tag team with Rey Fenix. Body Slam's Corey Hayes reported on Saturday night that WWE had tried to get in touch with Andrade for several weeks but had been unsuccessful. The takedown on his site cannot confirm this at this time, though the incident at SmackDown was said to have occurred in the middle of August. So, if we're piecing all of this together and, we listen to the rumors and the hearsay and so on and so forth, this is what we have here. We have Andrade, from what we're told, of course, these are all, reported rumors, violated a wellness policy, was caught with something, either was caught with something or refused to provide a sample for a test, right? And or refused to do the test outright. And that led to him being suspended. Then he shows up at SmackDown during his suspension. He's escorted off the premises. And then next thing you know, he's gone. So there might be, it might be that event that caused it. Maybe, there's another wellness policy that was perhaps skirted or didn't happen or, was bad, just ended up being bad. There's a lot of stuff that could, as far as the exact timeline goes or the exact nature of the events, but it does seem that once again, Andrade found himself being tossed out of another major company that he worked for. Once again, we've talked about we've talked about we've talked about what happened with WWE the first time, and then he shows up in AEW, and we kind of know what happens there, and now he goes back to WWE, and he's thinking, he wanted to go back. I've heard the rumors about AEW wanting to re-sign him, and he just chose. He's like, no, I'm going to go to the better place. And then this is what happens. Should we get into analysis time? Like my own thoughts, how I feel all of this comes together, and maybe talk about what the future lies for Andrade. Okay, let's do that. So Andrade has this history of just being a malcontent, of being a dissident, of being someone who's never fucking happy, of just being mopey and not being a someone who's necessarily easy to work with. Now, did he mess up a wellness? Did he have a wellness policy violation or not? Look, we can assume that all signs point to yes, but you could also absolutely point and go, I call bullshit on this, and this is probably just a reason that has been made up to make sure that the WWE universe turn on the guy, right? That they're not that we don't get another Karrion Kross or R-Truth situation where they're let go and the fans rise up. No, Andrade was released, and he was released because he probably puts bad things in his body, WWE universe, and that's not good. And the reason why I call bullshit on that is because, well, look at some of the guys they have under employment and that are over 40. I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you have a couple pop into your mind right now, and you're like, when's the last time they were checked for the wellness policy? I'm just saying that there's a high level of potential that this is bullshit. Before WWE, remember when people would get released by WWE? Do you remember the default reason, right? That would be leaked to media, right? They're difficult to work with. That's the one that would always come up. They're difficult to work with. And then people will go, oh, well, and that's a stain. That is a really bad stain on a pro wrestler's reputation. If that gets put out there, that they're difficult to work with. Because no one wants to hire someone who's difficult to work with. But, a lot of fans, look, it just becomes, fan nonsense and oh, he's difficult to work with. But the wellness policy, the wellness policy in this era of, supreme health in the United States, spearheaded by Paul Levesque and his buddy, RFK Jr., they cannot stand for, these pristine, these pristine Greek-like physiques of WWE wrestlers to be anything less than pure and well put together. Like, and I know, Paul Levesque, a guy who will take a stand against injecting yourself with performance enhancers, right? Paul Levesque will not stand for his talent being on the juice. He's a man with standards. He's a man he has a legacy of being pure and au natural, baby. So the hypocrisy behind WWE saying, oh, he failed a wellness policy. Now, look, is he testing for Fent? Well, then, yeah, send the fucker home. You know what I mean? Like, okay, sure. And also, let's try and get him into rehab. It's like, but, you see what I mean when I think it's a bullshit answer? Because how many guys on the roster right now, if they were to take a wellness, if they were to have a wellness check right now, how many do you think would fail? A lot, I'd say. It just seems like an excuse, is what I'm trying to say. It just seems like an excuse. And they made sure to clarify that it wasn't budget related, just to drive the knife in just a little deeper. It's like, oh, no. We had the money. We could afford them. We just don't want them. We could afford this guy. No problem. We just don't want him. So, according to Adam Cole, MJF would fail. Well, look, okay. So, I don't want to give the impression that I'm necessarily sticking up for Andrade, because I'm not. This kind of shit smells fishy. I don't like it. It's kind of desperate, It really does feel. It really does feel like they're just trying to come up with an excuse, and one that the fans won't turn on, because no one is going to start up, a hashtag to, save Andrade if the guy is he's abusing PEDs. No one wants that. No one's going to stick up for that. Although these days, common sense these days is it's kind of wild. So I don't know. To be fair, Brian Cage is there, so it's cool. Yeah. Well, look. To be fair, overall, what are AEW's wellness guidelines? What are they? I just never quite heard of those. Anyway. So that leaves us with the question, right? What's next for Andrade? And chat, I love you all. You are the A+ audience. What do you guys and gals and non-binary pals think is left with? What are the options for Andrade? Of course, the obvious one is AEW. Everyone's AEW. And I would say that Tony Khan should not rehire our guy here. I don't see, like, if he brings him back, he has completely lost the plot. This is a guy who was trying to get fired from AEW. Andrade, of course, I'm talking about. He was trying to get fired from the company. He was picking fights with people backstage. He was slapping Sammy Guevara around, and instead of getting fired, made him a babyface. This is a guy who was miserable. And I'll tell you why he was miserable, okay? I'll tell you why he was miserable. And I think everyone has to come to this realization when it comes to Andrade, okay? And maybe for a lot of you, it won't be a realization, but for those of you who are new here, who've been watching pro wrestling for 4 years or so, Andrade has always perceived himself as a guy, but with a capital G, okay? Not just a guy, but a guy, if not the guy. Wrestlers in general all have a very high opinion of themselves. And you need that if you want to make it in pro wrestling. You have to have that overinflated self-confidence to make it in this wild and wacky business. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But Andrade really believes that deep in his heart. And it has historically come in the way of him having successful runs on North American, well, at least on American wrestling promotions. Okay? It's the same reason he got kicked, he got removed from WWE that first time, where there were rumors going around that he was a little difficult to work with and whatnot. Then he goes to AEW and has the mentality that, fair enough, a lot of WWE guys who transferred over had, where they're like, well, I'm going to be a world champion here amongst you little people. I'm the big star. I'm coming in from the other place, so I'm going to be a world champion here. Booker's like, no, not really. I don't quite see it that way. So then he goes away, and then he gets thrown into the mid card in WWE, where he gets put back into a tag team, where he's like, I don't want to do AAA again. This is me going backwards. I am not doing AAA. I'm not doing this shit. Put me on the main shows. Remember, he muscled his way. Who did he replace? He muscled his way into the first WrestleMania he returned because he was being a bitch about it backstage. He was just complaining backstage, and they finally put him on the card. I can't remember who he replaced, but he replaced someone. Was it Dragon Lee? That's right, because Dragon Lee did come in before. That's right. Yes, that's right. Okay. In the Rey Mysterio stuff with the LWO. There was no reason for him to be involved in this, but he strong-armed his way in there, going to see Paul. Paul, you got to put me on the show, man. I'm Andrade. So this is a guy who sees himself on no lesser level than wrestling with top guys. That's his thing. And again, I don't have an issue with that. But at some point, when everyone is telling you, no, probably not, all the bookers you've worked for all say, nah, not really. Well, at some point, you're kind of like, well, I can either continue to work hard, do some little backstage politicking, or I can go around moping and getting into fights with people and just being a dick. And that's essentially what Andrade does. And look, we've seen it multiple times at this point. This is what he does. So if Tony Khan brings him back, I think Tony is completely out to lunch. Completely out to lunch. It's a bozo move to bring him back. This locker room does not need nor want Andrade, I'm sure. And I wouldn't be surprised. Here's the thing, is that I wouldn't even be surprised in the least if Andrade were to return to AEW, because I don't think the finish was acrimonious at all. And I think the proof is right there in how he left the company. His last few matches, remember, he was in the first Continental Classic. Do you remember this? He was in the first Continental Classic. In the Continental Classic, he was booked to beat Bryan Danielson. And he beat him right in the ring. While all these rumors about his departure are starting to bubble and then start circulating more. You start hearing that, oh, Andrade may be on his way out. And people are pointing at the Continental Classic. And they're going, well, he's not leaving. Look, he's winning. He's having a really good run. Apparently, Tony was trying to throw as much stuff at him to keep him. Wasn't enough because he hit the bricks. His contract came up, decided not to renew, which kept him all open for the Royal Rumble, which was 2 weeks after. So the last match he had was against Miro. He lost to Miro, but had a thank you, thank you crowd and so on. Tony gave that to them. He gave him that. It was broadcast on pay-per-view. He finished the Continental Classic with as many points as Eddie Kingston, who ended up winning the whole thing. He and Eddie Kingston are tied for 9 points at the end. That is like, Tony has no ill will. He was pushing the guy on his way out. So I would not be surprised if somehow Andrade makes his way back. In the least, I wouldn't be surprised in the least. It's not because Tony holds this grudge, or it's like because whatever. I would say it was amicable, because it sure looked like that on TV. Tony's been keeping people off TV that he knows are not going to renew. Look, the Ray Phoenix thing and the Ricky Starks thing and the Danhausen thing, and he's just been keeping them off TV. Didn't do that with Andrade. He booked him till the very last match he could book Andrade on. He booked him on. And it's not because Andrade, here's the thing, is that Andrade is a tremendous wrestler. I don't think anyone is arguing that Andrade is not a great wrestler. I just don't know if he's worth the squeeze. That's the thing. I don't know if he's worth the squeeze. So if he's not doing AEW, what is he doing? He may be a guy who just completely really did burn a bridge with WWE. So AAA is not in his future either. I don't think he'd go to TNA. Even if you discount WWE's possible influence, okay? Even if you discount that, there's no way Andrade is going to work for TNA for so little money. This guy's used to the high life now. You know what I mean? This is a guy he doesn't work for peanuts anymore. He's not going to TNA. I think there's a nice place for him in CMLL. CMLL would 100% use him. 100%. And he'd be a top guy there, and he would be he would instantly be booked in a big story with Mystico. 100%. I sincerely believe that. I think he has a nice secure place there and stays in the good graces of AEW. He can hang around AEW, maybe show up on a show. There's the partnership going. It's I think it'd be a good move. Another good move would be to go back to New Japan. And he, if he want to, they want to bring back La Sombra, well, they're more than welcome to do it, right? Does he want to go? That's a whole other thing. Does he want to go hang out in Japan for these long extended tours? That is legitimately, a question, right? Can New Japan afford him? And I'm laughing, but can New Japan afford him? Or do you go to the Bushiroad people and ask them to break the bank, to pull a Mercedes Moné and pay for the salary, right? And do you do that for Andrade? A guy who, can Andrade move the needle in Japan? I think he can move needles in CMLL. I think in Mexico, legitimately, he can draw. legitimately. In Japan? Because again, he's not going to go cheap. But I would also argue that New Japan would welcome him with open arms. I think they would just, please do come in, have a seat. Let's talk. What can I get you to sign today? Kind of deal. I don't think he has any I don't think any options are close to him. I think he's got relationships well established. I think there's a lot of potential for things that he can do in 90 days because since he was released, then it isn't, there's the 90-day non-compete. But I think like if he shows up in CMLL, I legitimately believe that's the best spot for him because he will be treated as a top guy and he's going to make a lot of guys on the undercard angry, but he's going to be welcomed with open arms. And he's going to be slotted immediately in a program against Mystico. Like they won't even, they're going to build that up for next year's anniversary show. Like they're going to make a big event out of it, right? New Japan could be, but I don't think they can afford him. Does he want to go on Japan tours and whatnot? That's, all questions that we don't have the answer to. AEW is the most unlikely, if you ask me, but also like not an unlikely where it's like, oh, there's a 5% chance that he'll show up. I give it a 40% chance that he'd return, 40, 60. So, it's like I don't think the split was as acrimonious as people like to think it was. I think it's been rather amicable. I think Tony Khan really likes him. So I would not be surprised if he shows up again. I think it's a bad idea. I think Tony Khan needs to learn about his previous experience with Andrade Eli de los Almas, Cien Almas, man with many names. But yeah, listen. To be continued, of course. But, look, to say that Andrade being available as a free agent is not a big deal is underselling this. I don't think it's a huge deal, but this is a pretty significant free agency right now. It'll be very, very, very interesting to see where he falls in 90 days. So by the end of the year, we will know where El Idolo will end up, and hopefully it's the best place for him, and that he can keep a job this time. Guess who's going to Saudi Arabia? Why, it's WrestleMania 43. That's right, late Wednesday afternoon, which would have been the 10th. A Snapchat video ad from Turki Al Sheikh, the chairman, I say Turkey, maybe it's Turkey, I don't know, I apologize for the pronunciations. Hey, the chairman of the Saudi General Entertainment Authority emerged online with Al Sheikh appearing to announce that WrestleMania 43 is coming to Saudi. There has been no official announcement from WWE yet, but PW Insider reports that the news is legitimate. Our Brian Alvarez followed up and confirmed, adding that Saudi Arabia will be getting the entire weekend, including SmackDown and Raw, and that he believes the deal is in the neighborhood of $100 million. PWInsider.com can confirm, however, that the story is 100% legitimate and an announcement is coming very soon, bringing WrestleMania to an international location outside of North America for the first time ever, the report said. WWE began its controversial business relationship with the Saudi regime in 2018, with its Saudi hosting annual pay-per-views, PLEs, for an estimated $50 million per event. The relationship has continued to grow in recent years, with Saudi Arabia set to host the Royal Rumble in 2026. In April 2026, WrestleMania 42 will be held at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, with Vegas getting WWE's signature event for the second straight year. In Interesting. So there was a little follow-up on this by Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. He shared the following the following news here that we're going to read off the Figure 4 Online Observer. Okay, so we'll recap really quickly here. News broke last night that Saudi Arabia will host WrestleMania in 2027. An official announcement from WWE has not been made yet, but Meltzer reports that he first heard last month that it was for sure that Saudi Arabia would be getting WrestleMania. At that time, there were rumors that there could potentially be 2 WrestleManias in 2027 with the United States and Saudi Arabia each hosting one. But Meltzer presumes WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia will be the only WrestleMania that year. Meltzer notes that Saudi official Turki Al Sheikh, it's not the same name that they used as on the other. Here it's Al Sheikh. The other one was Sheikh. Anyway, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority, at the very least, is the key person behind this, and Saudi Arabia is putting up a ridiculous amount of money, Dave said, to get the event. Here we go. Here's Dave Meltzer and a quote. They're putting up an incredible amount of money, a ridiculous amount of money. And the idea is to present the most star-studded show ever. You know, by far. Everyone, anyone, money is no object. Any name you can imagine. Obviously, they're going to be after. I presume it's the only WrestleMania of that year, but when I first heard, one of the ideas was to do a 2 WrestleMania year, 1 year, so that it keeps the American fans not upset about Saudi Arabia. But I think perhaps the deal is also that as Saudi Arabia has become much more and more normalized, it appears that the outrage that probably would have been there even a year ago or 2 years ago probably won't be. I hardly saw any today, but we'll see. Dave is not on Blue Sky. Meltzer said that because WWE had other commitments, they originally wanted 2028 to be the year for the Saudi WrestleMania event. It ended up being 2027 because that's what Saudi Arabia pushed for, with that year marking a celebration of the 300th anniversary of the first Saudi state being formed. Interesting. So, where to start with this? I don't think I'm really surprised. I don't think anyone is truly surprised because not that long ago, very recently, on an earnings call, a TKO earnings call, TKO was saying that they were getting setting things up so that Saudi Arabia would get more shows. And you know, the WrestleMania was always on the table, and yeah, I think this one we just saw coming. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And then we got the when right here. This is the when right here. It is it is happening in 2 years from now in 2027. So much for New Orleans, I guess. I mean, look, there's really not all that. Like I said, there's not that much of a surprise here. I don't think anyone should be shocked by this. I'm a little surprised that, you know, talks of doing 2 WrestleManias have sort of died away. I kind of felt that they were going to do that, you know, just to have, because look, they're all about money in TKO. So having another event called WrestleMania in the same year in an entirely different country means that you could still do yours in the United States, you know, and, you know, get all the marks. get all your fans to shell out their life savings to yeet with Jey Uso. You know, obviously, Dave doesn't seem to think that it's going to happen. He didn't say it's not going to happen. I assume that it's going to, that they're probably just going to do the WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they do too. It'd be their perfect, like it's just perfect TKO type of situation where they just, let's just go ahead and do it. We'll do one in the United States. Who cares, right? It's look, it's fascinating that the relationship has got to this point. Like Dave said, despite the outrage, right? Everyone still seems to be very chill and very okay with WWE working with Saudi Arabia. They seem, of course, they're accepting it more and more. It was just a question it was all just a question of wearing people out, because they're sitting on gobs and gobs of money, and they want everyone there. And maybe they're still asking for the Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna to be there. Who knows? Now, something that I did find interesting here is that there's this paragraph here where he says that WWE originally wanted 2028 to be the year for the Saudi show, but it ended up being 2027 because that's what Saudi Arabia wanted. You want to know who's running this fucking show here? WWE says, no. I think we'll do the show in 2028. And Saudi Arabia goes, no. They probably even said we want it in 2026, maybe even. And WWE it's like, wait, this way we can't do because, this and that. But look who's running the show here. You think this is Paul Levesque running the show? Big boss Paul Levesque? No, he's the biggest middle manager of all time. Between Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel and now the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority. Paul's like, okay, we'll do it in 2027 then. And again, so much for New Orleans, right? If I'm a WWE fan and I live in New Orleans, I'm like, this really, really fucking sucks. 2 years in a row in Vegas. And then I'm like, well, maybe 2027. No, it's not going to be in 2027 either. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Still fucking. You know what actually should happen? Here's what should happen. Tony Khan on WrestleMania weekend, on Saudi Mania weekend, okay? He should hold a show. This is what he should do. Put his billionaire money to work just to stick it to WWE, okay? Rent out a big fucking venue in New Orleans and run a big fucking AEW show in New Orleans that very weekend. And then on top, and make the tickets dirt cheap. The complete antithesis to whatever TKO charges for their fucking shows. Make these tickets dirt fucking cheap. Get some pro wrestling into New Orleans, get people excited. And they're like, man, this is affordable. This rocks. Fill up a big venue, a stadium, and run it on the Saturday that this fucking show is going to be aired on, right? On night 1 of WrestleMania Saudi. And WWE can't do anything about their start time. They can't do anything about it because they have to run on Saudi time. So it'll be broadcast live. It'll be streamed live at whatever time. So the entire evening in North America belongs to AEW. Unless WWE decides to counter program with a big NXT show featuring Blake Monroe, and all the stars of NXT. Wouldn't that just be fucking awesome? And run the show at a loss. See this as an investment to get some massive press. To get some press, because the press picked this up and they inevitably talk about WWE running Saudi Arabia without you ever having to lift a finger. It's just like, yeah, well, we believe the good people of New Orleans deserve a wrestling show and We thought this was a great moment. It's a great town, great city. You know, Tony knows how to do this, and just stick it to him. There's nothing they can do about it. And they can't start moving things around whenever they want because they're not running this show. It is the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of Saudi Arabia who is running this show. So even if they wanted to start earlier or later to try and counter program, they can't. They couldn't. Their hands are tied. And that, look, let's push this forward. Then Tony, okay? This is what I say when you make your billionaire dollars work here. Rent out a bunch of venues. Like pay for some indie promotions. You know, whoever the fuck. GCW, Action, West Coast. No, well, they don't usually do the WrestleMania weekends, but anyone that travels, any of these promotions, Dragon Gate USA, bring some starting people. This is you bring in your stardom people, like you did the TJPW. Rent venues out to these people, and have your WrestleMania weekend for the indies happen during this show, during this call it fucking All Out or All In, who cares, right? Call it All In New Orleans, and you're doing it in April instead of in July, which will probably be cooler, in New Orleans. But just who cares if you're losing money on this weekend, because the investment, the goodwill that you will be pumping in here will be tremendous. And then it becomes a showcase for your top guys and gals to just put on one hell of a show. I don't know. I feel like if I were the billionaire in this circumstance, I would be fucking with WWE so incredibly hard right now. For this particular situation, I'd fuck with them so hard because they don't even blink at the concept of fucking with me, and they think we're some junior startup that doesn't have any power. Like all the weirdos on Twitter who think AEW's gonna go in there. It's time to flex the billionaire muscles, Tony. Do something. Like make the promotion that has single-handedly changed / ruined American wrestling is deciding to take its biggest show to Saudi fucking Arabia for the weekend instead of doing it at home. They're taking it to Saudi Arabia because they're greedy fucks. They don't care about the wrestling fan. They just care about the money. They never cared about the wrestling fan, honestly. Well, not for years now, decades. Tony, make this a celebration of professional wrestling. That's what you should do. WrestleMania weekend in North America, in the United States, should then become AEW's wrestling fiesta or whatever. You're like the wrestle party. Or, better branding than what I'm coming up with. And you just come and you celebrate everything that is good about professional wrestling, not sports entertainment, goofy bullshit. We're talking professional wrestling. Indie Mania. See? The chat's got it. It's Indie Mania, and it's running wild. And then you let them have their little thing in front of all of their princes. They'll be, and they'll be so proud. It's Riyadh season, right? They'll be all happy about that, patting each other on the back. Isn't that a good idea, though? Isn't that something that they should do? I say they, I mean AEW. Tony should do. Because what is GCW going to do in WrestleMania weekend this year? Are they going to go have this Saudi collective? Are they going to all fly over and do that? Because if they do that, there's a lot of wrestlers, I think, that are going to line up and say, what the fuck, man? Why aren't we being paid more? I'm going to go up to Brett and say, you're flying us all out to Saudi Arabia. How come we're not getting paid more? Kristen just sent me a tweet from the pal, Brandon Thurston. And let's take a look at it. It looks like a graph, so it's probably very interesting. In case this is useful in the next 24 hours, this accounts only for the typical twice per year PLEs in Saudi Arabia, not including Royal Rumble 2026 or any other additional events that may be announced. So what are we doing here? It's ticket sales for every WrestleMania from 1985 to 2025. Here, let's punch this up here. Ticket sales for every WrestleMania from 1985 to 2025 adjusted to 2025 USD. So when we have a total of 400 million in ticket sales in the history of WrestleMania, in the 4 decades of WrestleMania. WWE events for Saudi Arabia government since 2018, they have made 650 million. Okay. That's a hell of a perspective. On 7 events and in 7 future events through 2027, they're going to make another 350 million. So since the beginning of their relationship in 2018, Saudi Arabia will account for $1 billion in revenue to WWE. So no wonder they gave Paul an old call here and said, yeah, you know, that WrestleMania that you want to do with us in 2027, in 2026, 2028, excuse me. Yeah, that's not going to work for us, brother. We're going to have to do that earlier. Holy shit. What happens when you have all the money? Do you get a new game plus? You know, when you've done everything, when you've got all possibly, you know, you're playing, I don't know, The Witcher 3, you're playing Batman Arkham Asylum, and you beat the game. You got everything. Well, you get a new game plus, right? You're like, all right, let's do it. Now it's fucking like, what do you do when you get all the money? Jesus Christ. And they're speed running getting all the money. When you look at these fucking, here I am with my gamer terms, look at me, how cool I am. But, you know, we're look at the difference here. That is insane. You go to heaven? I don't know. I honestly don't think so. I don't think Nicholas Khan is going to heaven. WWE is now focused on maximizing profits, right? What was the, it was Shapiro, right? Who was giving an interview. Hang on. Thank you for reminding me of this, Carlos, because I didn't put it on the docket. We'll pull up this article here. This is pretty much it. Mark Shapiro says Vince McMahon priced tickets for families and didn't maximize opportunity. Just a week after a fan confronted WWE president Nick Khan about the rising cost of tickets, and to which Nick Khan responded, "Really? Because I don't think they're high enough." TKO Chief Operating Officer Mark Shapiro has made it clear that fans should expect to pay even more in the future. Speaking at a technology conference, Shapiro stated that WWE has, quote unquote, work to do on its, quote unquote, ticket yield and plans to replicate the pricing strategy that has been successful for the UFC. Speaking at the annual Goldman Sachs Communacopia and Technology Conference on Wednesday, Shapiro was asked about the ticket prices for both of TKO's major properties. He was direct in his assessment that WWE ticket prices have not yet reached their full potential. Quote, WWE is not where the UFC is yet on ticket yield. We have our work to do there. He explained the company's new philosophy, which is a departure from the previous approach under Vince McMahon. Quote, we know we have a lot of room there because Vince McMahon was primarily pricing tickets for families and wasn't totally focused on maximizing the opportunity there. It's such an insane thing to say. Now that we've seen what, like, it's the most capitalist thing to say. Now, and I'm not sitting here telling you like I'm a communist. I'm just like, I'm being just, like, it's just a status. It's just a statement of fact here. Like that is probably one of the most capitalistic comments you are going to see ever. You know, look, Vince was pricing these tickets so that people could have a nice night out when in fact, he wasn't gouging them enough. That's exactly what's being said here. Totally focused on maxing the opportunity there. Now that we've seen what we can do with UFC, we're replicating that in terms of ticket yield and holding back and advanced sales when it comes to On Location on the WWE side, and it's working out really well. Ticket yield is a term used in travel and entertainment industries that refers to maximizing revenue by selling all available inventory at a strategic mix of prices. Shapiro has been open in the past about TKO's view that there is tremendous upside in increasing WWE's ticket prices. This strategy has already been reflected in the high cost of tickets for recent premium live events and television tapings in major markets. Shapiro also discussed the importance of site fees for both WWE and UFC events, stating that the primary focus is on cash. Like they're shameless, you know what I mean? Like there's no shame to this. There's just no shame. It's like we're flat out telling people, look, yeah, when it comes to ticket prices, we're not squeezing enough dimes out of the marks. And when it comes to site fees, well, it's important, but we need like liquid payments from these other marks. He even issued a warning to cities who have had successful events, suggesting that they will have to pay for us to come back or else we'll take it to another town. It's shameless. It's arrogance. It's insane. Look, I mean, it's a bonkers statement. It's a legitimately bonkers statement that every WWE fan should be like, yuck. They should be sitting there just going, yuck. Now you can sit back and appreciate the strategy being employed here. You can sit back and go, I respect the hustle. This is something, they are able to do it. This is a capitalist society and they should be doing it. And, honestly, quite frankly, between all of us here assembled here this evening, I got to tell you, I agree. Like if your audience, week after week, not just like, every other concert. It's not like paying $1,000 for a fucking Taylor Swift concert that happens once every 2 years, 3 years or whatever. This shit happens every month, every week. If your fans are ready to spend out the ass these exorbitant prices and not say a word and sit down and clap and yeet and then come back for more, of course you're going to keep raising the prices. You're going to see how far you'll be able to get away with it, right? It makes sense. It's just these people, these fans, at some point have to realize it is not worth it. There is nothing that WWE offers that is worth this much money. But there's no outrage about this. There's no one. You'll always hear about, oh, well, we're kind of mad that the tickets are so expensive. But you're buying them anyway, pal. You're still buying them. Oh, I don't understand. I don't understand these fans. And look, there's a lot of young people in there, right? There's a lot of I'm talking like college age kids, young adults, maybe early 20s, definitely not having the big, 6-figure job yet, that are in these arenas. You can see them. What are they doing? Getting into credit card debt to go yeet? It's like it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. So anyway, the point I was making is that ultimately, as disgusting and capitalistic these comments are and as brazen and arrogant as they are, he's right. The demand is there. And here's something that's very, very important. I know AEW has the perception of being the lefty promotion, the socialist promotion. let me tell you something, pal. If AEW had the opportunity to charge premium top dollar prices for their tickets, like WWE does right now, you can bet your ass that they would do it. You can 100% bet that they would do it. They're not, because they have trouble putting people into buildings for their weekly tapings. They don't systematically sell out, although they do good crowds. They don't sell out their pay-per-views. So they're not gouging their audiences as severely as WWE is. So but the minute they start running basketball arenas again, and they're able to fill out these basketball arenas time after time after time, they're gonna charge premium prices. The days of going to see AEW for $30 with a decent seat in the bowl because they're having trouble filling out the building and you bought it last minute will be gone. And they want that. AEW wants that. They don't want. Look, as much as we're enjoying the smaller venues as viewers, I'm convinced AEW, wants the bigger venues. They want to be able to go to bigger arenas, basketball arenas. They want that inevitably, and the prices are going to accompany that. The prices are going to go along with it. What do you want from me? So, just to make sure that we're all on the same level of understanding here, that just because WWE is doing it doesn't mean that AEW is going to be exempt of this. And you can go, oh, well, I think Tony Khan wouldn't do that. You haven't, that is just naive. Maybe he wouldn't be as shark-ish as the TKO people are. Maybe, but of course they're going to want to go harder and harder on that level. They're going to want, they want to be able to sell more tickets at higher prices because that's capitalism, baby. It's growth. You don't grow, if your business doesn't grow, it'll die. I hope that we all have this understanding that, AEW is not this land of milk and honey and where everyone skips around, with honeybees and flowers all around and, everyone has a seat at the table type of environment. It's an entertainment business running in North America, in the United States. It's part of a wrestling is already a cutthroat business. And they're running in this media landscape right now, which is super duper cutthroat. So you've got two levels of throat cutting going on. I hope we're all mature and intelligent enough to realize that, eventually AEW, once they start hitting their stride again, and they go back to levels that they were at, like in 2020, pre-pandemic, right? 2019, 2020. It's going to be something else. It's going to be just an entirely other beast. I just hope people are ready for that. And all you can hope for is that they don't gouge as hard as WWE does. And I think that's fair. It's a fair expectation. But other than that, look, I don't know. We'll have to see. We will have to continue following this evolving story. We mentioned earlier that there's a big show on this weekend from WWE called WrestlePalooza, meant to be the very first PLE with WWE's new agreement with ESPN, right? And someone pointed in my direction this really interesting article from Awful Announcing. Yes, that's right. Probably words you don't hear very often. Interesting article and Awful Announcing all in one sentence, but here we are. This was legitimately interesting. WrestlePalooza will be a disaster if ESPN doesn't strike multiple deals this week. We're gonna read this because I think it's. I think there's we talked about this when you know the state of the deals when ESPN and WWE announced the streaming service, right? And you'll recall that here on the stream or on the podcast, wherever you're listening, we had talked about how ESPN had set things up so that not all cable providers would be able to bundle the ESPN streaming app because ESPN, Disney, had not brokered deals with a lot of the major carriers, like Comcast, for instance, right? So I want to let's read this article together. Very interesting stuff here. In 5 days, ESPN and WWE will embark on the first step of a 5-year journey. On Saturday, ESPN will broadcast WrestlePalooza exclusively on its new direct-to-consumer app, right? The streaming app, just to make sure we're clear here. It's the first premium live event, PLE, under a new 5-year, $1.6 billion deal with WWE inked last month, and WWE is going all out. The event will feature Brock Lesnar's first match in 2 years as he takes on John Cena. Superstars like CM Punk, Seth Rollins, AJ Lee, and Becky Lynch are also headlining the card. WrestlePalooza will be of great interest to both WWE diehards and casual fans alike. The problem? Nearly 1 month after ESPN launched its brand new direct-to-consumer app, a large swath of would-be users are still on the outside looking in. In the lead up to the app's launch, ESPN could not have been clearer with its marketing. All of ESPN, all in one place. A key pillar of that marketing campaign was the idea that no matter how or where you purchase ESPN, you'll be able to access all of the bells and whistles associated with the new app, including exclusive programming. But if you want to pay $30 per month to ESPN directly, great, you now have that option. I put an extra but in there. I apologize. Butts. I put butts everywhere. But if you're one of the more than 65 million pay TV subscribers that access ESPN through a traditional bundle, you'll be able to authenticate into the app too. So that's important here. As we mentioned, the avenue of access will face its real test on Saturday as millions of wrestling fans descend on the ESPN app for WrestlePalooza. But unfortunately for some, their paid TV bundles still don't have access to the premium tier of ESPN's app as was promised. Comcast and YouTube TV subscribers will be the largest group impacted. Comcast has approximately 12 million pay TV customers, while YouTube has over 9 million. That's more than 20 million consumers currently paying for ESPN through traditional pay TV bundles that will not have access to WrestlePalooza unless Disney is able to strike a distribution agreement with Comcast and Google in the next 5 days. Add Dish, Sling TV, and Cox to the mix, all of which are in the same boat as Comcast and YouTube TV, and that number climbs even higher. The only way for these paying customers to access WrestlePalooza on Saturday, assuming no new deals are struck, is by subscribing to ESPN directly for an additional $30 per month. When you promise all of ESPN all in one place, but don't deliver that to tens of millions of subscribers that should be able to authenticate into the app, that's a problem. Come Saturday, there will be mass confusion. Unless you're following the ins and outs of the industry, like us here at Awful Announcing, it's not reasonable to expect people to know which distributors have access to the full version of ESPN's new app and which do not. How many Comcast subscribers will try to click into WrestlePalooza this weekend only to learn that they have to shell out an additional $30 to watch? Will ESPN do anything to better inform customers who will and who won't have access to these PLEs through their pay TV providers? So far, the network has been mum. Maybe that's because the deals are imminent. Maybe that's because it's not in ESPN's best interest to talk about it as negotiations are ongoing. Maybe that's because the network knows it can pick up some unknowing subscribers on Saturday who are desperate to watch WWE. We know Google has a distribution deal with Disney that expires next month. No doubt, similar to when ESPN would put important programming on ESPN2 or ESPNU to secure more lucrative carriage fees for those channels back in the day, they're treating the new ESPN app similarly. WrestlePalooza is the start, but soon enough, ESPN will be putting even more exclusive live programming on its app, forcing distributors into favorable terms to secure access. For now, it seems ESPN is willing to use WrestlePalooza as a sacrificial lamb to maximize its leverage. Comcast and YouTube TV subscribers will be unable to access their event via their current pay TV package. Those subscribers will rightfully get upset, but wrongfully direct blame at Comcast and YouTube TV, even though it was ESPN who misled them with their marketing. As usual, it's the fans getting hung out to dry in these negotiations. It's a tremendous article. And I didn't realize at this point that we still had gaping holes in ESPN striking deals with the cable companies that haven't embarked yet. I think that's rather significant. I agree with what this article is saying. This is going to be a bloodbath come Saturday. This is going to be a complete and utter bloodbath. You are going to see the Everything app full of people complaining that they can't get on, that they don't understand, that they had to pay $30. This is an inevitability at this point. A complete disaster. And I agree. You know, the failure that they have here, the failure that ESPN has here is that they went and announced the everything ESPN all in one place, but they didn't even mention it in the press release that they didn't have that it was for select cable subscribers or whatever the fuck, right? Or select cable carriers, I should say. They didn't even mention that in the press release. It was found out when people started digging. If my memory serves me right, it's Brandon Thurston who made some calls and was able to get the information from his contacts where they said, ESPN is not going to be available everywhere across the board. And some of the cable broadcasters, distributors, some of the cable distributors who haven't signed are some of the biggest in the US still. It's going to be a complete and utter shit show. So again, like the article says, you can, even though you get ESPN in your cable bundle, you can still pay the $30 to get the app. But technically speaking, you should be getting the app with your bundle because that's what they're doing with the cable distributors. But there's some that haven't come to terms yet. So unless between now and Saturday, now being Monday, September 15th, between now and Saturday, they need to figure this out. They really do need to. They need to figure this out, or they need to communicate. But look, responsibly, they should be communicating to their customers, to the consumer, saying, well, this is the reality of the situation, because you know what? Because that's honest. It's the right thing to do to protect the consumer, to be on the consumer side. But again, like the article posited, they don't care if a couple of people pay an extra $30 and get some more, subscriptions on the app. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's why they brought WWE on board. It's to get new subscribers and reduce churn. So if they're going to get more people who realize that, oh, I'm on, what was it like? I'm on Comcast. I can't subscribe. I can't get it for free, but I really want to watch WWE, so I'm going to pay the $30 nonetheless. And there you go. Congratulations, ESPN won. Disney won. That's exactly what they want. That's what they're hoping WWE is going to do. And I want to share something with you, because this is really fascinating to me. And I am that is going to be like, once All Out is done, that's going to be that's going to be the best spectator sport on the internet on Saturday. It's going to be fantastic. But check this out. As you know, I hang around, I have multiple group chats and whatnot. And I'm not going to say who this is from, but someone shared their directions that they received from DirecTV to get onto the ESPN app. Okay? This is what was communicated by DirecTV to people who have ESPN in their cable bundle and who want to authenticate the app and use ESPN for free. Well, without shelling out an extra $30, okay? Look at this. Navigate to directv.com. Step 1. Step 2, sign in. Step 3, enter your DirecTV user ID and password. Well, click sign in, I should say. And you may receive a one-time code for your email to authenticate the login. Step 4, select TV package from the account overview page. Step 5, under the package name, click on the link to activate ESPN Unlimited. Step 6, you will be taken to the Activate Your ESPN Unlimited subscription page. Click the Activate Now button. Step 7, you will be directed to the ESPN activation flow on ESPN.com. So you have a bunch of shit to go through over there, and then click Agree and Activate. Step 8, you will be prompted to enter an email address and password. Step 9, visit the ESPN app to start streaming. Now listen, this group chat that I'm a part of, where we share stuff like this, these are people who are very savvy when it comes to, streaming and setting things up with tech and whatnot, okay? So they look at this, and even then they're like, man, this sucks. Like, not that they won't be able to do it, but they look at it and like this is like jumping through hoops. So we can assume that most cable companies who have the agreement with the ESPN and will allow the cable subscribers, the ESPN cable subscribers, to log into DirecTV themselves, this is the kind of process that they're going to have to go through. And that is bonkers. Look at how complicated this is. And it's complicated for people that are kind of, we're kind of used to streaming now. This is just how it works. So imagine, like Joe Sixpack, who wants to watch the wrestling this weekend. He wants to watch the WWE, and he's got his ESPN thing, and he's going to go on his TV where he sees ESPN, and he's going to press play, and they're going to be like, nope, you can't. You got to get the ESPN app. What do you think Joe Sixpack's going to do? Is he going to find these instructions in his email? Is he going to go on the ESPN direct-to-consumer app FAQ to find the answer to his question and get all of these 9 steps here? And is he going to go through them, or is he just going to shell out $30 and he's going to get mad because he's going to miss? He sat down at 8 p.m. to start the show. I think it's starting at 8. Who cares? Whatever times it starts. Let's say 8. He's going to sit down at 8 p.m. and he's going to do what he usually does. But no, it's not going to work. And he's going to have to download an app. This is going to be a disaster because it's been poorly communicated and it's extremely convoluted to make it happen. If you do, it's been poorly communicated across the board, right? And people are going to realize only Saturday as they're sitting down to watch the show that their cable provider, their cable distributor doesn't have the ESPN deal, right? So they're going to be mad because they're going to have to pay an extra $30 to watch WWE. That's one set of people. The other people who have ESPN in their cable bundle are going to sit down and are going to press play to watch the pay-per-view and going to be like, wait, it's not working. I have to download and activate the ESPN app. And then they're going to have to go through this bullshit. They're going to have to go through this. And yes, the consumer gets shafted again because the consumer has to jump through hoops. We have to shell out the money. You realize how much fucking nonsense all of this is. I am so looking forward to see how this is going to go. And let's assume that everything goes well and everyone can log in, which is honestly what I hope. Because it's not a question of punishing WWE at this point. Consumers should not be fucked like this, you know? Consumers in general should not get fucked like this. They should be able to just stand up and do something, you know. They should be able to just stand up or sit down or whatever and download their app, whichever way they want. But let's just say everything goes well and hopefully the stream stays up because that's a whole other 9 yards. Let's hope everyone has the broadband to make this happen first and foremost, but let's hope that ESPN is, I'm assuming ESPN is comfortable at streaming live entertainment, right? I'm assuming. I'm not as confident when it comes to HBO Max this weekend. Between you and I. Or All Out. Just saying. Anyway, so clearly ESPN is not making it easy for its subscribers, not making it easy for WWE fans. Best of luck to you. We'll report back next week. We'll see how it all turned out. Let's jump over to this real quick. Tony Khan had an interview again today, September 11. And he says he absolutely wants Chris Jericho back on TV soon. What? This is an article from Post Wrestling. Let's read the article. It was written by Jack Wanan. Jericho has been off for months, which is okay. I can read. I swear to God. I promise you, folks, I can read. I'm an extreme. I was reading before I went to kindergarten. I've never told you this, but I was able to read the newspaper before heading into kindergarten. I was reading before all of my classmates did when I hit first grade. When I tell you all, I am a genius. Y'all sit there and you make fun of me, but that's fine. That's fine. Because a high IQ individual like myself expects ridicule and sees ridicule as envy. So I'm completely comfortable with it. Jericho has been off AEW for months, with his last match dating back to an April pay-per-view bout against Bandito. See, I can do it. Conversations regarding Jericho's future have started to surface online in recent weeks, with some wondering whether the ex-WWE star would consider making a return to his old stomping grounds. Amid the speculation online, Khan, as in Tony Khan, was asked about Jericho's future during a recent appearance on Columbus-based radio station QFM 96's Torg and Elliott show. Torg and Elliott. While not providing any details as to what Jericho's future in the company may be, Khan expressed enthusiasm about possibly having him back in the mix someday. And here is the quote. Chris Jericho has been here since the very beginning, and I have so much great respect for Chris Jericho, Khan said this week. I do have to say I would love to have Chris Jericho in AEW anytime, and yeah, we absolutely want Chris Jericho back in AEW and hopefully soon. He's been great with us, and he's been with us since the very first event. He's the very first AEW World Champion, and Chris is a huge part of the history of AEW and still in great shape, still a great wrestler. After one of the hosts replied saying Khan provided a very generic quote, the AEW CEO explained further, quote, I think you got to stay tuned to the show. That's one of the reasons you watch the wrestling show, to see returns. Jericho said earlier this month that he wouldn't be opposed to a WWE run, but told the Daily Mail he's not going anywhere for a while. All right. So why am I bringing this up? Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter? Why do we care? Look, Chris Jericho can do whatever he wants. I really don't have any issues if he leaves. I don't have any issues if he stays. That's just me. I know he's a very divisive, contentious figure in pro wrestling, but it is what it is. It doesn't bother me either way. That being said, there's a lot of, I've seen a lot of speculation of people pointing to the quote that Tony made there and said, see, he wants him back. He's not going anywhere. But he's essentially using the same quotes the same type of quotes, not verbatim exactly, but the same type of quotes with the departure of Ricky Starks. Remember when Ricky Starks was on his way out? He wasn't being used, and everyone was assuming that he was leaving. Whenever he was asked, Tony would say, "Look, Ricky Starks is a great talent. He's an important member of the roster, and I can't wait to have him back on television, that kind of stuff." This is essentially what he's saying here. This is essentially what he's saying. Do you think we can find easily one of these quotes? Okay, here's a good, here's a good quote here. Ricky has been a great star in AEW. He's been a champion here, and he's had great matches. I think very highly of Ricky. He's someone that has been here for several years, and he's under contract in AEW. He's a well-regarded wrestler here in AEW. So it's like, that's essentially the whole 9 yards here. It's essentially the same thing. Chris Jericho's been here since the very beginning. It's the same structure of a quote. I personally would not be surprised in the least if Chris Jericho shows back up, just like I wouldn't be surprised in the least if Chris Jericho shows up at the Royal Rumble, because it's Chris Jericho. JR recently doing some press and saying that Chris is important to us. He's got such a great mind. He's a great coach, and he listens to everyone and whatnot, and he gives advice. And he says, we'd love him to stay. Like if Jericho does indeed leave, it doesn't seem like it's going to be with anything with any level of animosity. If he does indeed leave, I think it's going to be a very courteous exit. Jericho's a businessman before anything. He's not going to close any doors here. Look, again, I don't know what he wants to do, and personally, to me, it's not that big a deal whether he goes to WWE or not, whether he stays in AEW or not. It really doesn't bother me. And look, and Tony Khan is essentially using the same type of verbiage that he used for Ricky Starks, and maybe even with Jade Cargill. So all the more power to everyone involved, and good luck. Tony's not talking. Don't see why he would. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Earlier today, on the day that I am recording this, the Wall Street Journal released an exclusive saying that Paramount Skydance prepares an Ellison family-backed bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. So this is news of interest for wrestling fans, of course, because as you know, Warner Brothers Discovery is the home of All Elite Wrestling, and as you know, Paramount Skydance Paramount Skydance recently entered into a substantial deal with TKO for the UFC. TKO also co-owner, not only owns UFC, but also owns WWE. So if the Paramount Warner Bros. Discovery merger, acquisition, whatever were to happen, I believe, as a lot of very sharp pundits on the internet have come to understand, that this will be the end of All Elite Wrestling. That we're finally here after years of speculation. I think this officially means that this is the end of All Elite Wrestling. Let's read the article. Why don't we just go ahead and read the article here from the Wall Street Journal by Jessica Tunkel. Paramount Skydance is preparing a majority cash bid for Warner Bros. Discovery that is backed by the Ellison family, according to people familiar with the situation. The bid will be for the entire empire, including its cable networks and movie studio, the people said. Warner said late last year it planned to restructure into two operating divisions, one focused on the legacy cable television business and the other on streaming and studios. It's funny how, cable TV, linear TV, that's legacy now. That's fucking wild to me. Such a deal would be a big swing. Warner Bros. Nearly $33 billion market capitalization is more than double of Paramount Skydance. A bid hasn't yet been submitted, and the plans could still fall apart. Warner shares were up 26% on Thursday afternoon after the Wall Street Journal's report on the potential bid. Paramount Skydance shares were up 9.1%. By preparing for a play for the company before Warner's planned split, Paramount Skydance is attempting to preempt a potential bidding war for the studio and streaming unit that could include deep-pocketed technology companies such as Amazon.com and Apple. If successful, such a deal would bring together two of Hollywood's most storied studios and the parent companies of streaming services HBO, Max, and Paramount Plus. Warner is home to Barbie, DC Comics, Harry Potter, and TV shows such as The White Lotus, as well as cable networks CNN, TBS, and TNT. The scale of the potential combination could bring antitrust and regulatory scrutiny. Skydance, run by David Ellison, son of billionaire Larry Ellison, weeks ago closed its deal to merge with Paramount, which owns Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central, and its movie studio. Very interesting. Very, very interesting bit of news to pop up. Now, I'm going to be super duper transparent with you. I don't know exactly what I have to add here. I don't know exactly what I can offer as, an analysis, as observations, outside of just questions. And questions at such a preliminary stage, because the article, the tone of the article seems to imply that, I got this news from someone who sent me some email. Like, this is what the journalist, I feel, is telling me. I got this little scoopsie because someone forwarded an email chain to me, and with a bunch of forwards, you know how it goes. And I looked at it all, I read it, and they seem to be talking about this, but the plans could fall apart, just like they said. They said the plans could fall apart because because they're essentially, I get the feeling that the news that they received is just like feelers, testing out the waters, having some chats. What could we do? What do we want? What would you like? So on and forth. So there's no deal, right? There's nothing at all. Now, we're talking about this on a pro wrestling podcast because obviously this influences or could influence All Elite Wrestling and their TV deal, right? It could, considering whether or not it happens. But again, because it happened, because we don't know what's happening, because we don't know what's, if this is even going to take place, I feel kind of stupid sitting here and speculating. Does that make sense? Like, I feel kind of dumb. Like, I feel like, look, when we started up the stream, y'all in chat were talking about, Paramount. So I'm like, of course. So my instincts were good. I should talk about it. But I don't know what to say really at this point because there's nothing to say. It's just rumors. So all you can really do is speculate, but speculate on what? On nothing, on a completely uncharted area where once again, we're going to be entering as wrestling fans. The only thing that I think we can sort of speak on is what I was talking about not that long ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, when we were talking about the HBO stuff and, the HBO stuff with the TNA looking for a place. No, I said a couple of months ago, that's more it. When we were talking about TNA looking for a deal and probably, and we were speculating that probably that WWE was helping to find them a spot, and how we were saying that probably TNA getting a deal with another media distributor would close the door for AEW to go negotiate with, right? The idea being, let's say, we're just speculating here, right? Let's say TNA were to land a deal with, let's say, Disney, right? Well, no, WWE already has Disney. Okay, with Paramount. Let's say they were to land a deal with Paramount. Well, then Paramount would probably then shut the door to negotiating with another wrestling company then. So it would mean one less place for AEW to go negotiate with. And I remember very distinctly saying at the end of that diatribe, I was saying, look, we don't even know what the landscape is going to look like in 4 years, because AEW's deal is up like in maybe 3.5, 4 years at the most, right? We have no idea what the media landscape is going to look like between now and then. I said, and I remember saying something to the effect of anything can happen. Companies can merger and so on. Companies can merge and so on and so forth, right? It could legitimately be that. And look at what's happening here. Like, we're about a month or a month and a half removed from me speculating about TNA and going, well, we don't know how things are going to go look like in 4 years. And we're not even like a full, fiscal quarter removed from that analysis. And here we are with a potential shakeup of the environment. So it's preposterous at this point to really start getting worried until something, as a fan, until something gets written down. Now, I underscore this one more time. As a fan, should Tony Khan be a little weary about this? Yeah, sure. I think, he's got to make some calls. He's got to get some contingency plans in. He's got to open up some negotiations. He's got to talk to people here. I'm like, okay, I am beginning to prepare. If I haven't already started preparing, that is, right? It's a weird thing right now, this bit of news, because I don't think there's really much to report on or to delve into analysis until it really does happen. Does it spell disaster for AEW? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. But, you can see that with Paramount, Skydance, their new relationship with TKO, they might be a little more inclined to listen to TKO and say, hey, maybe if TKO says, hey, you know what, maybe these guys, they're a bunch of scumbags, don't hire, don't pay them anything. Maybe they'll be inclined to listen to one of their media partners and be like, oh, fuck you then. Okay, we're not going to do business with these people. Because, Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel, these are legitimate Hollywood sports media power brokers. Like, these guys know what they're doing and then some. So they have the contacts. They know the people. They can make the appropriate calls and they can have, whatever conversations that need to be had to make sure that that AEW doesn't have a chance on any Paramount network moving forward or any streaming service or whatever the fuck, right? And then it depends also entirely on the structure of this merger. Like, that's a whole other thing. It might, all of this might only fall into place when, in regards to the the structure of the merger. Or acquisition. We're talking merger. Don't even know if it's a merger. Could be just a buyout, and it's just like, okay, well, everything is just. We just purchase things and we break things apart, right? So, like, I really don't know what to add at this point. I don't know what to really speculate on. I can speculate, like, you've all thought of it. You've all figured that, if a TKO friendly broadcasting company gets into bed here, well, it might close the door for AEW, and maybe you're right. I think it's plausible. But do I think like this is really like the end of AEW? No, I really don't. I think the most important thing to remember here, and it's something you have to hammer home, because AEW fans are an anxious lot. AEW fans, y'all live with some deep rooted confidence issues, okay? AEW, regardless of what happens to the Warner Bros. Deal or not, is going to be fine. And I wish wrestling fans just came to the realization that Tony Khan is flush with cash. The Khan family is flush with cash. They're one of the wealthiest families in the world. Not, in Iowa. Not in, Prince Edward Island, not in the United States, not in North America, not in the Americas, in the world. Okay? If they want to save AEW, they'll be able to save AEW. All right? They will 100% to be able to save AEW. What we're all worried about is TV exposure, and whatever happens, AEW will end up on a TV station somewhere. And maybe we'll have to go through a little bit of a Spike TV era. We might have to do a little jump on TNN for a while. I know those networks don't exist anymore. Just, if you get the comparison, you know what I'm talking about. Like, AEW is fine. And that's the most important part that you have to understand. And I wish AEW fans got on board with this. This is not, it's not Jerry Jarrett having, starting up his promotion and then having to take out a $10 million loan to keep it afloat, okay? And then having to sell it to, a mid-size energy company that didn't have, that was mostly a vanity project for the daughter and they really didn't care much about, right? Like, as far as a startup wrestling promotion in 2025 goes, AEW is the best possible outcome. It is the best possible solution to the US wrestling problem, because the guy who's behind it is not as much as people love to throw the term money mark around, he's a billionaire who has been involved in sports media for years, saw the terrain for this, saw an opportunity free up, because he is also a fan, first and foremost, of professional wrestling. So all of these put together created this perfect hodgepodge, this perfect soup in which all the elements created this tasty soup that we like to call AEW. And it's not going away anytime soon. And I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know who needs to hear it. Because here's another thing that works well, okay? Because I hear all the WCW things and whatnot, all the WCW comparisons, but people don't understand their history. WCW was already going under. It was bleeding money. Ratings were in the can, were in the toilet, and nothing was being done to sort of restructure the company. So when the AOL merger happened, well, people start putting shit on the block and on the chopping block, and there you go. That was one of it. Not just because they didn't like wrestling. The company had been hemorrhaging money for years at this point. Now, AEW is a profitable wrestling promotion. And those are not words that you put together very often, but it is profitable. They are operating in the black, folks. So that is something that when you show up to a buyer, you're like, no, we're running a tight ship here, pal. The towel will not be thrown in just yet. It will not happen. I refuse to believe it because it's not going to happen. And I wish all of you would just shut up. No. I wish everyone would just calm the fuck down. I wish people would just take it easy and stop thinking that it's immediate doom and gloom. Now, the haters, because I've seen people taking screenshots posting screenshots of formerly Twitter, of the usual group of morons, and then posting those incredible thoughts on Blue Sky. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we posting about the dumbest people, talking about the stuff they don't understand, and they clearly have an agenda. They want AEW to hit the bricks regardless. They hate AEW, so they're never going to say anything positive, anything good. Why are we doing this? Like, there's no point to any of this. The haters are going to do and say whatever they have to. Now, and I don't think it's going to have an impact, a severe impact on AEW. I mean, it'll have an impact if they have to move stations or whatever, partners, find another partnership. But here's the thing. Here's something that I want y'all to think about, though. I think that Warner Bros. Discovery, and we might be a little off topic here, but I think if Warner Bros. Discovery were to merge with Paramount Skydance, it would be more of a detriment to movie making overall, because then you're having one less studio making movies, which means less offer, a more homogenized offer as well. I think overall for culture, this is a bad thing. for culture, entertainment, whatever you want to call it, then suddenly you're going to be getting more Harry Potter movies. You're going to get more Superman movies, which is DC Comics, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. But it's still nonetheless, well, I say it's fine because those are good examples. You'll be getting more focus on the franchises as opposed to creating. And it's already really hard these days to have some really interesting, creative movies coming out of big Hollywood studios. They all play it safe. They all, green light, sequels and reboots and shit like that. It's already difficult right now to get like real good original ideas, really good, interesting, original movies out there. And now we're going to turn around and we're going to turn around and merge two big movie studios into one. And then it's Warner Bros. It's Warner Brothers. Like the history of this fucking place, right? Going to merge that with Paramount and, another huge studio. And what's going to be the outcome there? It's just going to be less productions. They're not merging to make more movies. They're merging to make more money for the people at the top. It's very dire right now. If this goes on that level, extremely dire. And look, the article said right here, the scale of the potential combination could bring antitrust and regulatory scrutiny. And, I, of course, and you probably will as well, guffaw heavily at this, considering how the Paramount CBS thing went through, with presidential approval. Like, there will not be regulatory scrutiny. There is not going to be, there should be, but there won't be. This is just going to fly through. Paramount got through with the CBS merger with the president the president of the United States getting involved in this bullshit. You think he's not going to, hand wave whatever regulations are going to go through here? I mean, look, yeah, like Convoy says, worrying about the state of media, that's where that I get dooming about. Never mind pro wrestling here. It's something much bigger and much more sinister and it's only going to benefit a handful of people, and the rest of us are going to suck shit about it. And then in a few years, it's going to be, what happened to Hollywood and all this, And we're already asking these questions. A situation like this is not making it it's not making it any better, pals. You know what I mean? So there you go. Look, that's the extent of it that I feel right now. In summation, like I said, AEW's deal is up like in 3.5, 4 years, something to that effect. In that time, there will continue to be changes in the media landscape. Between when we talked about it, because in regards to TNA getting a potential deal until now, which was just like this past summer, right up to now, there's already talks of a major merger slash acquisition between two huge Hollywood studios. So I can't in good faith sit here and predict whether or not this is good or bad for AEW, because the landscape is in constant flux. All that I believe with my heart is that wherever WWE is operating, those are areas that will be off limits to AEW, because you can assume with a significant amount of confidence that WWE has exclusivity in their contracts with their partners. So there cannot be any competing wrestling content on Netflix or on ESPN or whatever, CW, etc. Because it's been like that for years. Don't see why it'd change now. So that's the one thing that we all have to keep an eye on. where will WWE be when it's time for AEW to renew? Because those are the spots that AEW will not be able to negotiate with. And if Paramount and Warner Bros. Become one, well, it becomes one less place for AEW to go and negotiate with. So that's the summation overall. And that about does it for this week's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for listening to the very end here. If you're still here, I think I deserve a like. I think I deserve a 5-star review. I think I deserve a 5-star rating. Deserve a 5-star rating. I think I should. I think I should get all of those because you're here till the very end. Thank you all very much. Otherwise, listen, I will be back this weekend for reviews. For members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube, they will get full access first to my All Out review, All Out 2025, as well as the CMLL anniversary show, which is happening on Friday. I will also have a review for that available too. So we've got both of those lined up for this weekend. Very, very exciting stuff. But they will be available on the podcast. They will be available on the podcast next week. But if you're members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube, you will get those in advance. You'll get early access to them. Otherwise, I'm talking about this weekend. But in the meantime, between now and the weekend, I will be back on Thursday with the Dynamite review. So, and streaming, as you know, stream on YouTube Thursday nights, Monday nights. That's usually when we stream. Come join us. Come say hello. It's a good time. You'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it. I always love seeing new faces. So hope you pop in. If not, listen, thank you. Thank you for being here this week. I appreciate it tremendously. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.